Hi there, and welcome to Graeme's Guide Friday Live, this Friday, the 10th of September. Thank you for joining me. It's been great making these videos. Well, it's been great for me because I feel like I get a chance to interact with you in a way that you normally can't online. Usually a lot of the online interaction is just using text and typing and discussion boards. So I'm very grateful for you for tuning in to share some time with me in a sort of a face-to-face way. So I am a little bit nervous about today's Friday Live, and that's because I want to touch on some concepts that are, let's just get straight into it. Alrighty. So I want to talk to you about how you're assessed and how you're marked. This is a critically important part of your time at university, of course, because you're learning new knowledge, and then you need to demonstrate your understanding of that new knowledge in your assessments. So understanding how we mark your assessments is, well, critically important. So your assessments, to find your assessments, you go into the assessment menu and you see the assessments there. They're all listed, and you look at the marking criteria, look at what's required. But if you're only basing your write-up on what you see on that assignments page, it's not going to be enough to, if you're wanting to achieve a higher grade, there's not enough information there really for you to take what's there to achieve a higher grade. Not everybody wants to achieve higher grades. Some people just want to pass. That's absolutely okay. Some people are looking to do study for the future. They want to do postgraduate study. People who are wanting to do postgraduate study, they need to achieve higher grades. Otherwise, they may not be accepted for a master's degree or a PhD. So some people are definitely aiming for higher grades because they want to do postgraduate study. Other people are aiming for higher grades because they're perfectionists. I tend to think of myself as a bit of a perfectionist, because I'm never really satisfied with my work. And that can be frustrating because sometimes it means it's very hard to start writing or submit work that I'm not satisfied in. Anyway, that's another story. I'm sure many of you will relate to the problems and the challenges of being a bit of a perfectionist. This is something you actually have to deal with and throw out the door. Just try and do your best rather than perfect things. That's another topic. So just more on about your assessments and what's required to achieve a pass, a credit. This sort of, you can see above me, my agenda is looking a little bit different today. In fact, it's not an agenda. I've got it's showing you. Let's go through it. I'm very mindful that I will babble. And I don't want to babble and then you miss the important parts of what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to try not to babble and try and be clear and concise. Okay, so this above me here, to achieve a pass or credit in assignment 3, or in any assignment really, to achieve a pass or credit, you sort of only have to demonstrate that you've remembered the information and that you understand the key concepts. So if in your assignment write-up, if you include the key concepts, it shows that you've remembered the key concepts, and then you demonstrate that you understand the key concepts, and that might be by giving a description of a key concept, well, then that's likely to get you a pass or a credit. Oh, just as a matter of interest, what is a fail? So, or not pass, whichever way you want to look at it. So, not passing we don't like not passing assignments. So we really are looking for marks. We want to give you marks. We want you because your success is our success. So the way we can give you marks is if you've given us something. So if you're not writing to the word count, so if the word count's 1,500 words, and you're writing, less than 1,200 words or less than 1,000 words, if you're only writing half of the word count, half of the required word count, well, we can't find enough marks there to give you a passing grade. So the first step is you really have to be hitting the word count. And so for a 1,500 word essay, you want to be writing about 1,500 words, but no more than 1,650. So that's an easy way to avoid not passing, writing to the word count. That's critically important. And then within that word count, you need to demonstrate your knowledge of the key concepts. So that means that you need to cite our essential readings that talk about the key concepts. So one that I keep on mentioning is Metacognition. I only mention it because it's the first thing that comes to my mind. But if you wanted to demonstrate your knowledge of metacognition, well, you mention it. That shows you've remembered it. Then you can demonstrate your understanding of metacognition by telling us what metacognition is. And then you include a citation to a reading on metacognition. There are two readings that come to my mind. One is, readings. One of them is a reading, the Livingston reading, and the other one is a series of videos by Dr. Chu. The Dr. Chu videos are one of my favorite video series in this entire unit, and they talk about metacognition. So Livingston and Chu talk about metacognition. If you cite Livingston and Chu and you mention metacognition and you demonstrate your understanding of metacognition, that's a pass and a credit straight away. So that's that's one way of not failing. We want you to pass. Okay, so let's go back up here to actually what's beyond a pass. So remembering and understanding, that gets you into the pass credit area. So to get into to get up to a credit or distinction level, you need to then apply that knowledge. So you've demonstrated your understanding. So if you apply that knowledge, and applying that knowledge, I've talked about this in the discussion boards, you give an example. So with metacognition, an example is, I know myself that I work better in the morning. So that's metacognition, is my knowledge of when I work best. So I will plan to get my work done in the morning because that's when I plan, when I work best. The next part of that is actually doing that. Tomorrow morning, I will get up and work from 7 o'clock until 11, get my work done. Then afterwards, the last part of metacognition is evaluation. So I would then, if I was doing a full metacognition discussion, I would then look back and say, well, did that work for me? Did getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning allow me to get more work done than normal? Things that might have interrupted me, maybe there's phone calls, maybe there's other things going on, and maybe after 10, there was too many interruptions. So my evaluation is, well, either I get up a little bit earlier, or I only work from 7 until 10. And because I know that after 10, I'm not going to be able to get work done. So that's me applying metacognition to my studies. And so now I've applied, as you see up here, I've applied metacognition, and in some ways I've analyzed as well. But if I was going to analyze metacognition, I would actually look at metacognition. I would look at those three areas. So metacognition looks at planning, doing, and evaluating what happened. So I could analyze metacognition and say, is metacognition, does metacognition actually describe what I'm trying to achieve? And there might be something else similar to metacognition. And maybe I want to look at so Dr. Chu looks at metacognition in one way. Does Livingston look at metacognition in a different way? Can I compare Dr. Chu's ideas and find challenges in Livingston? Now, that's moving up into analyzing and evaluating. So you can see in my list above here, if I'm now analyzing and evaluating Dr. Chu against Livingston, that's moving me up into the distinction, perhaps a high distinction. So can you see there the difference with just a pass? So a pass, you would mention, oh yeah, we learned about metacognition. This is what it is. That gets you a pass. If you then apply it to your own life and describe how you've applied metacognition, that gets you into the credit distinction category. And then if you evaluate metacognition by talking about a couple of different theorists, talk about Dr. Chu and Livingston, and what do they say about metacognition, that moves you up into the distinction, high distinction category. So can you see now that while in the assignment details, it tells you, you need to cover these topics, but there are different levels of covering each topic. You can cover a topic this much, or you can cover it a bit more, or you can go into even more detail, in depth. So those are the differences, and that's what can create the differences in the marks that you are awarded. So you may have written a really good credit level essay. You may have done a really good job at credit level, so you get a high credit. You might get a 68% because you've done a very good job at credit level of you've remembered, you've understood, and you've applied. But you haven't gone on to analyze and you haven't gone on to evaluate. So that's why you didn't move on beyond the credit level. You didn't move beyond into a distinction level. So I hope I haven't babbled. I hope I haven't. I hope I've been able to cut through and explain how you can achieve higher grades through this method of understanding what we're looking for is what I'm trying to say. Alrighty. So I'm not sure how long I've talked for. You can move on now if you want to, because that was really the most important part of this video. I am going to go on and talk a little bit more now about, I'm going to show you another example. The Chu example is a good example. I'm going to show you another example. So, because there are sources that are available already within our readings, but then I want to show you how you can find sources from wider research as well. Okay, so let's go on to this. I feel like I need a coffee. Just one moment, let me have a sip. Smile. Alrighty. That wasn't too hard. I don't know why I'm nervous about this. It's really kind of silly. All right, moving on. So let's go into the modules, because I want to show you where you can find these sources and references. If we scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's this reference list. I have shown people this before, but if you're seeing it for the first time, welcome. So let me go down here to week 2. So here's the Chu resource that I was talking about, and here is the Livingston source. So really, if you're talking about metacognition, you've already got your sources here. You don't really have to go much further. And you'll find that in each week, there is likely to be, enough resources here for you not to undertake wider research if you don't want to. But I'm going to show you why it's good to undertake wider research. Let's go to, we're here now at week 5. Here's something that is mentioned in week 5, Metzger. This Metzger source is mentioned in week 5. And I want to go in now and show you how you can use this source to expand your research. Okay, so where am I going to do this? Got to remember. Okay, so let me show you first where it is. So in the modules, I'm going to go down to 5.3 because that's where it is. And this module here, 5.3, it's talking about research. And because in assignment 2, you were required to do some research. You were required to find code of ethics. You were required to do research on that case study to support your discussion on that case study. But we're talking about assignment 3 now. We're moving on to assignment 3 because you're going to be doing more research there. Even if you're researching, you can research within our own essential readings. But when we talk about wider research, that means going to the Swinburne Library and looking for more sources, or even beyond the Swinburne Library. So this is Metzger. Metzger is talking about how to evaluate online resources, because the quality of your sources is also important. It's critically important. So if you're getting a Wikipedia source, that's not a credible resource, and we've talked about this before. So you want to find peer-reviewed sources or journal articles, academic level resources, because these will not only improve your grade, but it improves the quality of your work if you're using highly credible and reliable sources. So, and most of our sources are online these days. So how do we evaluate online resources? And that's what this Metzger is talking about. Metzger is using a model that was proposed by a guy called Capoon. We'll come to that in a moment. And it says that if you go to a website, you need to check it for accuracy, authority, objectivity, currency, and coverage. This is a checklist approach. So you check this off. Is the website accurate? Check. Does it have authority? Was it written by an authoritative person? Check. Is it objective? Is it current? Is the coverage enough? Is there enough information there for what you want? So this is called a checklist approach. You check off these 5 things, and if your website gets enough of these checked off that satisfies you, well, then it's a good source and you can use it. But let's look at Metzger's approach. So, and this is where we get to evaluating. So, is this checklist approach a good approach to find sources? This is something that, if one of your course goals, for example, is wanting to improve your research and writing, well, you're going to need to use some method to determine what is good research to support your writing. Metzger's criteria, Metzger's approach to finding good resources is one way to do it. But is it the only way? So let's go to the Metzger reading. I've already opened it up here. Let's go there without my shortcut. Let's do it the long way. So we go to the library and we click here, open in a new tab. I'm really glad that you're still with me, for those of you who are still with me. And in here, we're going to type Metzger and evaluating online sources. And what do we get? Here it is. It's the second one here. This is the source that is referenced in our unit's reference list. And so we could click on here. And if we click on, it says here full text available. So if we click on this full text available, it will open up in, this is the full text of that article. And if I click on this PDF, it will open up. This is all of it here. I don't need to open the PDF. I can just look through here. But I'm going to open the PDF, and that's what I have here. So you'd need to have a read through this article to find out why the checklist approach is being, Metzger is saying the checklist approach is a good approach. So you need to read through the article to find out why Metzger thinks this is a good approach. And if we go down, into the article, on this second page here, you'll find here's what we in the Swinburne module, we provide a summary of this article. So this is the summary, what it's summarizing here. So it's summarizing accuracy, which is what you saw before, authority, objectivity, currency, and coverage. So these are the 5 things that need to be checked off to determine if a online source is credible and reliable. But where did this theory come from? Well, if we look back here in this paragraph, we'll see it came from the American Library Association, the Institute for Literacy, and this author here, this first author, is the one who came up with it. So let's look at his. That's a possible source for it. If we want to talk about how to evaluate online sources, because we want to improve. So our goal is improve our research. How do we improve our search? We improve our ability to evaluate online sources. So if we go down to the this Metzger's list, you can see why I was a bit nervous about this video, because it's kind of in depth. So let's go down to the bottom of this Metzger article and find Metzger's list of sources. Here's Metzger's list of sources here, and here is Capoon. So let's go to this URL here and find Capoon's theory. This is it here. I've already opened it. And you'll see Metzger is using this checklist approach. And so this is exactly the same as what is in the Swinburne module 5.3. Accuracy, authority, these are the things we need to check off to determine if a website is credible and reliable. So now we've got if we're going to talk about improving our writing, we've now got 2 sources. We've got Metzger, who talks about the checklist approach, and we've got Capoon, which is where she got her information. Metzger got her information from here. But Metzger's saying that this checklist approach is a good approach. But if we read further into Metzger, like all good academics, Metzger also finds somebody who does not agree with the checklist approach. So if we go into this article again and have another read, if I'm going up here, I'm looking for Miola. Here it is. So Miola provides a different approach to checking. And Metzger tells us that a very different approach to the checklist model is Miola's approach. So now we want to know about Miola. What's Miola's approach? How is Miola different to Capoon? Because this is the comparison. Capoon says you can do really good online research by using Capoon's checklist method, but now Metzger is telling us that Miola has a different approach. So we go back down to Metzger's list of references. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I'm really sorry about this, but I'm telling you, this could be very useful for you, not only for assignment 3, but for your future studies. This is an understanding of how you can move your grades from pass or credit up to a credit or distinction, or even up to a distinction or high distinction. This is how academic writing works. So even though this is a little bit long, this is useful information, I assure you. Okay, let's find Miola. Here's Miola here. Oh, actually just under Capoon. So this is the article that Metzger has read, and Metzger is comparing it. So I just got to grab this the title of this, and I press Control-C to copy it, and I go back to the Swinburne library, and in the search bar, I put in this Meola, and the, might just take that hyphen out of there. So this is Meola's, the title for Meola's article. I click on search, and here is the article by Meola in the Swinburne library. You don't have to go any further. And here you can access it online. Look, it's even a bonus here. It's peer-reviewed. So this is a really great resource. So let's click on accessing this. Just waiting for it. And here it's in ProQuest Central. So I'll click here to open the article. And the first thing I want to do is I want to read the abstract to find out what we're talking about here. So here it says, and this is talking about the evaluating online sources. So this paper criticizes the checklist model. And look, it's talking about it here. It's criticizing this model where you check for authority, accuracy, objectivity, currency, and coverage. Swinburne has this in its module 5.3. However, Meola is criticizing this model that we're saying is a good model. That's actually not to say that it's not a good model. In fact, the checklist approach is a very good model, and that's why we teach it. Meola is arguing against it. And this is how academics will argue one theory against another, by calling out and finding challenges to another theory. And this is what you need to do in your writing too, okay? This is evaluation and analyzing. So this paper criticizes the checklist model approach to teaching undergraduates how to evaluate websites. The checklist model rests on faulty assumptions about the nature. Look, you can read on about that. Nevertheless, Meola offers a different take on how to evaluate online sources for credibility. You can read through this article and find what Meola thinks about it. How does this work for you in assignment 3? Well, if your goal is to improve your research and write-up in academic writing, well, then you want to be able to, you need to improve your researchability. So you need to use an approach for finding online sources. So the approach that you could use is a checklist approach, or you can use Meola's approach. So maybe that's what you want to talk about. You can talk about, I want to improve my online research. These are the two theorists that I've looked at that provide an approach for finding credible and reliable online sources. You will not have a problem writing to the word count. So you probably need to write about, I'm not sure how many words, you'd have to work it out for goals. It might be about 300 words. You need to write on your unit goal of, if in this example, on improving your online research. That's your unit goal, to improve your online research. You can see now that if you're starting to write about Metzger and Meola, Capoon, you're going to be lucky if you can fit it into 300 words. So there shouldn't be any problem of underwriting an academic essay. The problem should be having too much to say and having to reduce it and write it in a clear and concise way. So look, that's when I say that's all I wanted to talk about today, I know that's a huge amount that I've talked about today. But I felt that it was, I received some questions about assignment 2, and people were questioning why their marks weren't as high as they wanted them to be. Well, I felt that I owed you an explanation of how we in academia approach our academic writing, because this is something that we've all had to learn, that it's one thing to remember and demonstrate your understanding of a theory, but it's a completely different thing to then critically analyze a theory one against another and then evaluate theory. So this is what can bring your level of academic writing from a pass or a credit up to a credit or a distinction and beyond. I hope that's been of help to you today. I'm out of breath. I'm feeling much less nervous now that I've got all that out. I hope I haven't babbled too much and I've been able to cut through and give you some really good practical advice for your ongoing studies here at Swinburne or wherever your studies takes you. Thanks for checking in, and I'm just looking for the stop button. I found it. Bye for now.